This is another edition of Coach's Corner of the Triple Play Fantasy Basketball brand. I am Coach Lewis from Hereford Middle School out here in Baltimore, Maryland. I'm with my co-host, my fellow head coach of Los Banos High School in California. How you doing, Kevin?
I'm doing good. Just watching some basketball today, March Madness finally, and just hanging out. Love to talk about these prospects.
Don't you love it? Have like 3 different streams in the background. Teach your class, get back to watching some March Madness, circle your bracket, cross out the ones you got wrong. This is another edition of NBA Draft Prospect Talk featuring 2 projected lottery picks that should fall between as high as 5, but probably no lower than 12. And that is Jonathan Kuminga of the G League Ignite. And there is Ziaire Williams of Stanford, a great choice of a college. You can show a little bit of his character. And our California native and aficionado, Coach Coleman, I want you to talk a little bit about Ziaire and things that you like about his game.
Yeah, Ziaire is an interesting prospect. He's someone that, he's 6'8", 185. His frame definitely is something to look for and kind of be a little concerned about. But, in college right now, 10, 4, and 2, I don't necessarily think you can just jump with the numbers and tell that tells the whole story about him. He has a lot of good pros and some cons. But when you look at Ziaire and what he's able to do, you'll notice this move is one of my favorites that he does. He's very fluid around the basket. I would say that his shooting is hit or miss. So when you watch, he does need to improve his shooting, but he does have the capabilities of doing so. You'll see him here. Again, he has a nice little step back, and I think that he can develop at the next level. I like seeing what he can do with that. He's athletic, obviously. So when you watch him, he's a pretty good playmaker. He scores off the ball. He looks for his off-ball motion plays. And he does have a shot. It is frustrating at first. He can do a little bit too much ISO for me, I think. But again, that's kind of the NBA, what we have. But when you watch him, he can. One thing that I think he does do is he creates his own shot. He creates his own play, and he is a playmaker. You can tell he's athletic. So when I'm watching him, is hey, does his athleticism hit up to par? I believe it does. He's actually a pretty good passer. He can excel off and on the ball. So I like him. I think Ziaire, is someone he's got to get more strength. But I do like what I see from him from a shooting perspective, as far as his form, his step back, what he does. I think he is an underrated playmaker. So you see here, coming off the screen, he's a pretty good defender. He's long, right? We talk about length. Where's my length guys out there? He gets those tips that I like to see. He can do a lot of the things that I like to see from a prospect his age. He rebounds pretty good for a kind of smaller guy in terms of his body, but he does have that length and that wingspan, right? So there we go. He said wingspan, you got to drink. So wingspan, he does gamble a little bit too much. He can play out of control sometimes. So I think at Stanford, he's been required to do a little bit more than maybe he's used to. So you can see him hoist up some shots that you're like, where did that come from? So he's been asked to do maybe a little bit more. I think he's more of a role player in this next level, in terms of he's not going to be able to take a team and say, hey, this is my team, this is what we're going to do. I think he's athletic. I love his versatility. So, and he's a pretty unselfish kid. So when you watch him, like kind of you mentioned, going to Stanford, he has that kind of that unselfish mindset when he's out there on the court. He doesn't mind passing the ball. He looks to dish. He sets screens. He does all the little things that you like to see. And I think he plays pretty good defense. I think he gambles too much trying to get those tips and steals and dunks, and that's a high school mode. Trust me, I teach these kids. All they want to do is get dunks out there, and you can see that translate a little bit. I think he'll get better at that, but he's a pretty dang solid defender, and I think he has some blocking ability. He's got the length that you need to guard somebody. Needs to get a little quicker on his feet, especially when he's sliding and trying to get in front of guys. I think sometimes he can be too flat-footed, and it's something that he needs to work with his athleticism a little bit in terms of defensively. But hey, I like him. He's a pretty solid prospect. I think he can be inefficient. So inefficiency and strength is my 2 big question marks for him.
That's one thing that stuck out to me about Ziaire Williams is that he has super pluses, but then he has negatives. So he has some of the best dribbling and moves package that we've seen of these top prospects. I mean, the kid has some wiggle. He's got a nice little hezzy, but he's got a hang hezzy too. We saw the defender bite on that, and he curls off of it. He snatches it. His step back, the amount of space that he can go because of his length, it's almost unguardable, which gets him in a situation where he does shoot those erratic bad shots. Like it's not Ziaire Canyon no more. Like you and BJ Boston can't just go back and forth up and down the court. Oh, it's my turn to ice. It's your turn to ice. And you see they both are having some struggles with their field goal percentage here at the next level.
Yeah.
But I really love some of these moves, and a lot of these players just don't have too many moves. He might have the best moves outside of Cade Cunningham and of players that we've looked at so far. That the knee injury before the season, I think that really has hindered him. It's hindered him shooting. It's hindered his athletic ability as far as his lateral movement, covering space. And I think that it also hits your confidence a little bit when your knee isn't 100. You got a big – I've torn my ACL meniscus. You got a big-ass brace on your knee. You're just like – it feels like it's just holding you down to the ground. He does like to jump momentum pass towards the hoop off of like a pick and roll. I like that. Like he'll get up and then somehow move his body off of the pick and roll. So he's very conscious off of a pick and roll. I do like that. He'll give you multiple efforts on defense. As coaches, we love a good defender, and because of his length, he gets deflections. But he'll dive on the floor. He takes charges like he's from the 1990s. I love that part about him. But then he can also get a little too aggressive. Like he'll leave his man entirely for the weak side help to try to get a block, and it leads to like a wide open three. He has a wetter. His shot is beautiful. Yes, he's not shooting the greatest percentage, but just look at it. And it's really high. With that length, it's going to be hard to block. His frame being 180, just 185 pounds, just worries me. He's 6'8". It took Brandon Ingram a little while in the league to kind of get his footing and to kind of really get stronger and more confident. And that's kind of my player comparison. I think a lot of people, you can kind of just watch him and see that he's kind of frail, but he's long. And he plays better with the basketball in his hands. He's not a great player off the ball. So he bites on pump fakes. Like I said, he's an overcommitter. That worries me. And then like anytime a knee injury happens early in life, I put a huge question mark on that. He turns the ball over way too much. He forces himself in tight windows. But I mean, that just it goes into his confidence. And both of these players are really high in their confidence level. He's an uplifting teammate, and he's flat out entertaining, especially when he's rolling. So those are all plus and minus factors that I took away from him.
I mean, he is. I think one thing he's got to work on his shooting if he wants to expand that part of his game. Like I agree that he has a shot. It looks good. Like every time it goes in, you're like, yeah, that's something that he can probably develop consistency. But I don't think he's shot at any point. And I looked. At any point over 30% from the three-point line. Even when he played Nike EBL, I think he was around 28, 29%. This season alone, he's around that number. So he's got to try to get up there into that area. And I think that he has a good area of the game. He knows the game. He can turn it over a little bit when I watched him because he tries to press too much to be a playmaker. So I am concerned about those two things. But as an athlete in those things, yeah, he looks good. He was a hard player comp for me when I was looking at player comps. I'm going to cross guys. So I think he's like DeAndre Hunter, but Josh Jackson. So he's kind of the mixture here. Like he's kind of what Josh Jackson, we thought his potential could be, but then the shooting kind of reminds me of that Hunter kind of area. Can he step back and make that three consistently?
I like the Jackson comparison for sure. And we saw kind of where he is now. The other guy that I had was he's a little bit of Harrison Barnes. Mm-hmm. He's not as smart. His IQ isn't as good, but I think more so when I look at the shot and how high it releases and the fact that it does look well. Those were my two guys that I went with. With that said, we got another guy to talk about. It's our second G League person that we've spoken about, and that is Jonathan Kuminga of the G League Ignite. You see his stats, 16, 7, and 3. He is 6'6", 210, and that 210 makes him an ideal 3 or even 4 in the league that we have today. And you'll see that when you see him play, because he's got good size and he'll put his body on you. He's not a great athlete, but he'll surprise you at the rim, both blocking and dunking. He puts you on his back. He knows movements. He pump fakes. We just see a little carry. He loves the Euro step to just kind of create space. He doesn't have a violent Euro step. He's good in transition. He makes good decisions. He'll get that ball out. He really had a good relationship with Jalen Green on the Ignite. The Ignite team, they went to him. When they needed a bucket, they went his way. He didn't shoot great percentages, and we'll talk about that in a second. But here he goes in transition again, finds the open man. That's like the 2K play. Get the defender on one side and just that opening comes in. Boom, he finds the open man cutting back door. He draws the double team. I love that. He's patient when he gets the ball. He uses a jab step well. He shoots some bad shots, though. I'm not going to lie. He really thinks that he's really good. And looked at the defender's in his face. He waited for the defender to get there, and that worries me a little bit. He shoots a lot of mid-range shots, and that'll get you in trouble in the league that, they tell you to shoot the 3 more often. His percentages, like I mentioned, 38 from the floor, 25 from 3. Free throw percentage, and this is the kind of the difference that I saw with Ziaire Williams. Ziaire Williams is an 80% free throw shooter. Although this kid, I can see him actually getting to the line because the way he attacks, 62.5%. That's not going to do it, but he has good instincts as far as rebounding. My pro comparison is it's high tout, and I'm sure you'll have something to say about it. But he reminds me a little bit of Carmelo, but he's smaller. He's not 6'8", but he does play well with smaller defenders on his back, and he does movements. He got pump fakes to get his shot open. This kid was a #1 player in his class as a junior, but he reclassed, and then he's playing with grown men in the G League. So yeah. I think that has to do with some of these percentages. He still managed to average 16. Like I said, they were going to him when they really needed a bucket. Sometimes Jalen, when he's hot, you get him the ball every single time. Sometimes he does a little disappearing act from time to time. Like I said, he's a good passer on a fast break. He's a super confident kid, and he does have a smooth bravado that you notice on first sight. He looks like a pro. He's got the look. He will put you on his back and methodically back you down. I've mentioned that. He shows flashes of wow moments. So I saw him catch a backward lob with a defender on his back. I was like, what? And then he met Jordan Poole at the rim, and it almost to the point where, like, I don't know if the Warriors should bring him up again. I don't think Jordan Poole. I think he should just stay here in the G League because this little high school kid just destroyed him. But the mid-range off the dribble with the defender on his face, it does worry me that his decisions. But I could see him growing, and I could see him growing into a stud wing player. It sounds like I don't like him that much, but I really do.
Yeah, I don't like him that much. I will be honest. To me, he scares me as a prospect because the Carmelo thing worries me too. I don't know, coach. I don't know. I think he can score. But I also think that sometimes, and it's what I call kids all the time, they're ball stoppers. They just every time the ball gets to him, it looks like just the offense just dies. And then it's one-on-one, hey, can I go get a bucket? Now, he's a hooper. So most of the time he can go get a bucket. So when you're watching him, you're like, hey, he can go get a bucket. But I don't necessarily think he makes his team better. I think that they look to him to score. Hey, this is I'm going to go get this ball. I'm going to go. But I think sometimes he can be kind of a ball stopper. And I think the problem that I have is that I think that his offensive game is going to take time to develop because I think in the NBA it's going to translate, and he's got that development. He's going to need to do that. So it's going to take time to translate his game over there. He doesn't really play hard defense. I think he can play good defense, but when I watch him, it seems like he takes a lot of time off. There's been questions about his his work ethic on the defensive side. He seems to have lapses where he's at. It didn't seem like it improved in the G League. It didn't seem like there was that. So for a kid that's probably going to need to find minutes based on his defensive play, I think that he needs to get better at that aspect of it, because if he wants to improve offensively, he's got to get on the court. And you don't get, hey, this isn't high school. This isn't college where you're going to get minutes because you're the best athlete. NBA's got best athletes out there everywhere. So I think that sometimes he needs to develop that side. And now my comp for him is like Pascal Siakam, who also developed, right? Like, we're talking about Siakam now as being this guy, and now he's good, but it took him some time. And what did Siakam do? He learned how to play defense. He learned how to be versatile. He learned his role, and then he developed into that offensive game. I think that's what Kuminga has to do if he wants to be a solid NBA player. Now, if I'm taking him in the top 5, 5th, 6th, 7th, I'm a little worried. I would rather have maybe Moses Moody than him, just because of what I saw from his tape, what I see from like his work ethic. Now, I'm not saying he can't turn into this. Kuminga would be the one guy that we've talked about that I would be the most worried about drafting in the top 10.
Well, and it's funny because right now he is a consensus top 5 from pretty much every draft board that I've seen, and he's been up as high as 3. At a certain week, I've seen him at 1. He didn't stay there forever. He can get a bucket, and I guess that's why people are wowed by him. He has the build to do the defense, but the effort thing, I'd have to concur. Like, he doesn't show all out effort and then we got Ziaire Williams diving on the floor, getting charges, and he's as skinny as probably your high school player, your starting center. So I think your versus, if you have to choose one, who do you got? Because you already took Moody over him. Who do you have, Ziaire Williams, or do you take Jonathan Kuminga? If you're sitting there at pick 5, 6, 7, they're both on the board. Who you got?
So I'm gonna cop out a little bit. If I'm picking at 5 or 6 or 7, and I wanted to, and the Kuminga's guy I'm gonna take, I might trade back. We'll go a little old school, like, hey, am I gonna trade back? Maybe get better talent. I know that doesn't happen in NBA very much.
This isn't the Patriots, bro.
I know this isn't the NBA. I know that doesn't happen. But if I could, or maybe I would take that 5th pick and trade it for a proven asset, maybe someone on the block, somebody else. I'm really worried about Kuminga. I'm worried. But with that being said, he does have a lot more. I think his upside is more. So I think his ceiling is someone you have to take at that pick, right? Like, if you want to, he has so much untapped potential, like Siakam and those guys. You have to take Kuminga. I think Ziaire is going to be a very fine prospect. I think he's someone that can have a very solid career. But if you're picking in that top 5, I'm taking Kuminga because of the upside. Now, it doesn't mean I'm not worried about the things that I said, but because of that upside and what he can bring and what he can develop, if he can figure out developing it, then you get an NBA prospect, superstar. Zaire is not going to be that, which is perfectly fine. But if I'm taking somebody that high, I'm taking Kuminga.
I'm taking Kuminga too. He's my pick. If I'm the 5th pick and I'm the Pistons or I'm the Wizards and I've got the team that I have assembled now, I'm getting him, and I'm gonna try to let him develop with whoever else I might have. If I'm Cleveland, I'm taking him. If I got a better surrounding cast, like if I'm the Pelicans, I get Ziaire Williams. I'm not saying the Pelicans will get that pick, but I'm getting Ziaire Williams. I think that he's a really good complement with Zion, and he's shown some good catch and shoot ability in that length. I think that it could really be dangerous with the right fit.
Yeah.
But I think the teams that will be picking up in the top, although now with the lottery system, it could be anybody. I think I would take Kuminga for me. I've liked him in high school. I've taken a little bit of a step back after this kind of G League, but I think it's just like it's like going from Pee-wee football to going to play varsity football, or it's like going from JV to going VARS at a private school. It's a big jump, and to reclass, I would say it shows his confidence. This is one of the best classes that I've seen in a long time. So to put your name in that hat when you were the #1 player in your class in the country, shows some kahunas. So I like that. We'll see who's bubble bursts in the NBA, because both of these kids are super uber confident. I think that surmises our takes on Williams and Kuminga. We would love to hear your opinions on that. Please like, subscribe to our channel if you like the video. Let us know some more prospects for us to break down. And like always, be safe. I guess still wear a mask. And 3 feet? Is it 3 feet? What is it? 6, 3?
3, 6. Just, just be smart. Just be smart out there.
Just be a rule follower, please. Ladies and gentlemen, enjoy March Madness. Have a good day.